In our last video, we talked very generically about research ethics. Let's dive deeper into some of the core principles of research ethics. And we're going to look at the 10 core principles provided by the Marketing Research and Intelligence Association. Now, since they printed these 10 core principles, I don't know, what is about 15 years ago, they have since merged with the Canada Research Insights Council. And the idea here is that research ethics isn't specific to marketing research. When we do any type of research in the social sciences, that in terms of polling about people's opinions, about politics, about anything, it really has the same research ethics to it. And so they have since joined the Marketing Research and Intelligence Association, has combined with the Canadian Research Insights Council to combine both research on from the business perspective as well as the social sciences. But as we mentioned in the previous video, research ethics really is the same across. When you get into some of the medical sciences and biology, there are additional ethical considerations as you start to deal with those experimental designs and perhaps where people are not informed that they exactly what you are researching. So there's some additional ethical concerns there. Or when we're looking at like clinical trials and testing pharmaceutical drugs, there's additional ethical concerns there. So the list of ethical concerns and steps just gets longer depending on your discipline. But let's start with the basics regardless of what your field is. So we're looking at these 10 core principles. And to help kind of accentuate what these 10 core principles are, let's look at a survey that is highly unethical. All right, so let's suppose, okay, so I'm teaching a class, so maybe I'm teaching a marketing research class, and here we have our survey. So the survey says to receive participation credit, so there's a grade attached to doing this survey. You must complete it in its entirety. You must attach your name to it, and you must tape it to the board in the room so that everyone knows that this is your responses, that you're the one who filled it out. All right, so then we start asking very inappropriate questions, right? So we're asking you when you shoplift. And notice here in the questions that we don't have the option to say you never do it. You either do it once a day, once a week, once a month, once a year. And so we're assuming that you are shoplifting. And you can see other questions here about making racist comments, right? We're assuming you do it. And so we're simply asking how often. So you can already see there's some big issues here with the survey. As we continue, we're asking highly sensitive questions like what your income is. And the last question asks for the PIN number of your credit card, right? So why would we be asking these questions? Maybe this is really under the guise of credit card fraud. But you can see that there's a lot of problems with a survey question, right? So let's look at these 10 core principles. So the first principle here is that there is consent. So if someone is going to participate in the survey, they need to be able to do that knowing what they're getting into, and they need to have the ability, if it's possible, to withdraw. So either they fully know what they're getting into, and by starting it, they are consenting to do it. Or if it's something that's more of a process, they could then at any point decide, you know what, I'm out. I'm not doing this anymore. So part of the problem with the survey we just looked at is that in order to get any points, right, they needed to fully complete the survey. So they didn't have the ability to withdraw in the middle of the process without repercussions. Okay, so there needs to be a way to withdraw, and there needs to be a way to indicate there's informed consent. You know what you're getting into. The questions, the design of the research project needs to instill confidence in the public. So the research should be conducted in a manner which creates a sense of confidence in research in general and your industry in general. So if we look at particular questions being asked where there is no need to ask those questions, where we're digging for information that is highly controversial, highly sensitive for no true gain then that is not building confidence in research or in our industry. We need to know we need to look at the public's right to policy. So the use of the research data should only extend based on the consent that was received. So I can't use the survey responses here then to commit credit card fraud by stealing everyone's PIN numbers from the survey responses. That is not what they consented to when they consented to participate in the survey. And there needs to be a protection of privacy and anonymity. It's not always possible to create something that is anonymous. So for example, if we are doing a focus group, we're bringing 8 to 12 people together. Those people can obviously see who the other participants are. It's not truly anonymous. But we can protect confidentiality, which is when we go and report the findings of our focus group. We don't indicate who said what. We don't indicate who actually participated. We ask the participants in our focus group not to disclose what other people said or who participated. So we're trying to protect them when we go external to disseminate the information from the project. If we can protect anonymity, for example, we would not have a name attached to the survey, then we wouldn't know whose responses are whose. We wouldn't know who feels a certain way or who behaves a certain way. So is it possible to be anonymous? When we are doing, we'll look at a survey, or we look at, for example, surveys in education. So if I want to do research on how effective a teaching method is, then it may not be anonymous because I want to find out what the student likes and dislikes, but I want to tie it to their grades. In which case I have to be able to map that student information to the feedback they're giving. In that case, I can't promise anonymity, but there is informed consent. The student will give me permission as part of the research design to take their comments. They know they're not anonymous, and to attach them to their grade. Alternatively, we could protect their anonymity by having them fill out their preferences, what they like and dislike, and then answer questions in that same survey that are questions, maybe they're questions about content in the course, so that they're already tied together in the survey itself, but the survey can be anonymous because we don't know whose survey response is whom. So we're trying as much as possible to be anonymous, and then we of course want to be confidential and protect the privacy of the participants and make sure that any research we're doing is in alignment with what the individuals consented to, and that they know what they're consenting to, that there is informed consent. We want to make sure we have accuracy, so we are using the appropriate research methods tied to the appropriate research goals to avoid conducting any research that is misleading, where we say there is an impact when there really isn't. So one of the reasons we take training, and maybe you're watching these videos for this purpose, is to make sure we're using the right methods to solve the problems that we have, the questions that we need to answer. We make sure we can take that organization, opportunity, or problem, turn it into a research problem, and then use the right methods for collecting participants, for designing the research, the data collection, and then the right analysis methods. Make sure that's all in alignment so that there is accuracy, that what we found, when we find something it has an impact, it really has an impact, that we can extrapolate to the greater group from the sample that we've taken. And so we're maintaining that integrity of our findings and of our process. We want to make sure that we have ethical practice. We act honestly, we act fairly. Remember in our the survey we looked at of people who are hiring someone to do research for them, that honesty and trustworthiness were at the top of the list. So we make sure that all of our dealings with any members of the public, any clients we're doing the research for, any participants, anyone involved is being treated fairly, respectfully, and we refrain from activities that show disrespect, demean individuals, criticize, or disparage others. This is also true in the wording of the questions we ask. right? So notice the survey, part of the problem with the survey is it made assumptions about people. It assumed that they were shoplifters. And so that is not respecting your participants by giving them the opportunity to state how they truly feel or how they truly are. We want to make sure we're respecting our clients' rights, we're protecting their interests. And so if you are being hired to do research, right, you have a client, you are also protecting them as well as the participants in your research. And so how are you doing that? That is making sure that records are properly held and stored, that you're protecting them from theft, that you're protecting them from misuse so they are not accidentally leaked out to others or inadvertently destructed. If we are doing research for a client, as we said, maybe we are being hired to interview prison inmates, and there is that expectation not only for the inmate that we're protecting their confidentiality, what they tell us, but also for the organization that hired us to do the research. So there is an agreement, right, in terms of what you are collecting, you will protect. And that does mean that when there are that police could come with search warrants with subpoenas for information, you have to understand what is the commitment you made to the client, to the participants in order protecting confidentiality. Now, as this is ethics, you do not commit crimes, lie to the police, for example, but you do have an expectation that you have committed this agreement to your client and to your participants, protect information. So there are methods to do that. For example, if you are taping interviews, after you transcribe it, you delete the interviews so that no one has access to the information in terms of hearing someone's voice. So you can protect their anonymity by, once you transcribe it, you remove the identifying information from that interview so you don't have a name attached. That's what you save and do your analysis and maintain for your records, but you don't have the tape. And that tape then means that the information that individuals provide is protected, right? It can't be traced back to an individual. So it's not that you are countering legal activity, because of course you need to be legal in your ethic. If it's going to be ethical research, you yourself have to be behaving ethically and legally. But you do need to take steps to make sure that any promise of anonymity, confidentiality to either the client or to the participants is maintained. And so that brings us, of course, to the next one, which is lawful, right? So we are abiding by prevailing provincial, national, international legislations which apply to research conduct. And so if you are watching this video as part of one of my courses, then you are completing the TCPS2, and it goes into more of the legal requirements in terms of ethical research. We need to make sure that our research that we are competent, so that we understand how to perform research. We're upholding the highest standards of competency in the design of the research project, the actual data collection, the analysis, the reporting, in all phases of the research project. Okay. So we need to perform proper research using proper methods. We need to be lawful, right? No blackmailing people into responding a certain way on your survey. We need to maintain their confidentiality. And the last two here is familiarity. So maintaining and keeping informed about the code of conduct that's relevant to your industry. So whether that is the marketing research and if you are doing marketing research in Canada, or you are doing polling related to social sciences, that type of or any type of social science research, then we have the Canada Research Insights Council, formerly the MRIA. If you are doing research related to medical experiments, then there are standards there as well. So you need to make sure you have the ones appropriate to your industry or discipline. and to be professional. Commit to the goals of continuously improving oneself and one's profession, learning and improving what you do and how you do your research. So these are the 10 core principles. We want to dive into a bit more of the specifics. And so what we're going to do is we're actually going to take a look in our next video at the MRA, the Code of Marketing Research Standards. Now, the Code of Marketing Research Standards, this one goes back about 10 years or so. They have since joined Insights Association. So again, consolidation, right? So not so much just siloing of marketing research by itself, but now bigger, greater research standards. They have since joined the Insights Association and created a new code of standards for marketing research and data analytics. We're going to look at those in the next video and identify which of the items, as we get to more detail, are violated in the survey I showed you, as well as some other examples.